This is the Rebel Scum podcast. Available in video on YouTube and audio wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every week, Brock and James talk the latest rumors, news, and theories from a galaxy far, far away. Support us on Patreon for exclusive offers and join the Star Wars discussion. Patreon.com/RebelScumPodcast. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
You are always scum. Rebel scum.
Boom. Rebel Scum podcast. That was 349. I'm Brock. This is
James.
And as always, back again with us is Heidi. Heidi, welcome to the show as well.
EP.
We are the red team. Perfectly timed. Chances
Before we
well.
started, we had an every time of the odds of the cat jumping on the table, and it was 100%.
100%.
And not even a minute into this thing, and we are here.
Boom. It's Neil time. Thank you, Skywalker's Academy. Woo.
Well,
all right.
I don't know if you just noticed this, but we all put our hands up at the same time.
Yeah, that's why I was laughing. I was like, that was perfect.
That was insane. We didn't even, that's because we were talking about Wicked before we recorded. Choreography is key. Yeah. Choreography is key.
All right, let's get into it. Episode 4. And what was the title of this?
4 episodes of this shit. It was called Not At.
Yeah.
We don't have Star Wars in the chat this week, so I don't know.
No.
Heidi,
I don't recall any. I can't say I remember any of that or something like that.
Yeah, it's what SM33 keeps saying over and over. As I said, I'm like, right, it's what he says over and over again. Which, like, I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna pay attention to these titles. It probably won't be a thing anymore, but like, I do enjoy that. It has that there's something going on like that. So what were your initial thoughts of this episode?
I liked it. Probably my least favorite so far, but I mean, it's still enjoyable. It just, the whole thing with this battle, they join these kids in battle, and it reminds me of that pitch meeting thing where, how are they going to get out of this? Oh, well, alien inconvenience. All of a sudden, they're about ready to go to battle. He just shows up. Oh, okay. I stole your money and gave it to him. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah, this was the episode. It was enjoyable in a lot of ways, but it was like, I think I tweeted or texted you guys. I'm like, I miss movies. I miss Star Wars movies. And this episode made me go, yeah, I really miss them. Because this was an episode of a TV show, and it felt like an episode of a TV show from beginning to end. It was like a subplot to a subplot. And I was like the meat of it, like, what is that? Why is Ad missing from everything? I was like, that is really intriguing. But yeah, like the kids going in, like being the warriors for a minute. I'm like, okay. Like, it was all like it was like, this is weird. It was not weird. It was like, this is for nothing. And it ended up being for, I guess, Neil getting his first kiss. But it was like, I don't know. It felt very TV to me in a lot. And like, which it is a TV show. So I don't know if that's an insult or not. But it was probably my least favorite so far. But that being said, the ad and stuff, especially at the end, I was like, all right, let's go. Like, what's going on here? Because the one thing the show for me is doing really well is the mystery stuff, but they always seem to have an answer for it right away. So like, what is that add-in? But the ship heading to add-in is like, why was that ship there? And now we're starting to get that mystery starting to get solved as well. Like, slowly we're getting pieces of it. And I really like that. But it was weird that everybody cries for longer episodes, and this one was like, it felt longer. It wasn't that long, but it felt longer because it was like all this like filler stuff in between getting the book ending of what we needed. To me, that was my opinion.
I feel like this will just sort of make it like, maybe just wait for all the episodes to drop and watch this on your holidays. Though I guess you can't. I mean, I guess you could start watching it on the holidays, but it won't be complete. I the thing that I enjoyed from this episode that stood out for me that I'll probably think about tomorrow is they had that creepy 80s music when they're like getting off the ship, and then later in this like
Yeah.
super, which is not the CN Tower, Heidi. I was like, that's what Heidi keeps talking about. So I guess the supervisor tower is where the CN Tower is. But like I like that because it was like, oh, that's like Flight of the Navigator. Like that was the music in Flight of the Navigator. That's just like, oh, stuff is gonna happen. I agree. It was a slow episode, but like I like where it was going. The whole subplot of like the child soldiers was like could have actually when those kids like appeared out of nowhere, I'm like, because at this point we're like, this looks like our planet, but it's not quite right. When they came in with helmets and they took their helmets off, I'm like, they're gonna look exactly like those kids. And I'm like, for a second there, that tall girl kind of looked like Fern. I was like, oh, they're clones, and they're all the different planets are the exact same people. So, like, yeah, the thing I think about this episode is setting up something for later on, where I think it's like there's these. How many planets is there? Like 6 or 7?
I said 9.
9. Okay, these like at planets. I think like yeah, it seems like not to bring up Fallout again, but it's like they have these planets where they're doing these experiments and it works on some of them and it doesn't work on all of them. So I feel like we're gonna get connection, and like it was slow until they went up into the supervisor's thing, and then I was like, oh, that's cool. Like the scene with the SM-33 and them trying to figure out the coordinates, I was like, this is something. Maybe would have been nicer in an earlier episode, and then we spend the rest of the time just figuring that out. I don't know what I really like where it's going, but yeah, it was slow.
I mean,
Yeah, this was the first binge episode. Sorry, Eddie.
No, I was just gonna say before we saw her dad, I thought maybe they were gonna be on the planet that Andor was originally from, because I think that was the planet, because it was kind of looking like that, like it was it was a planet where everything was destroyed and all the adults were killed and there were just kids left. So I thought maybe that's where they were first. But if you notice, the house they go to looked just like Fern's house, because she even thought that was her house, and she's like, well, the tree's too big, and they thought, well, maybe they did like a Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah. I'm like, they got lost in time or something, but they even kind of like, don't they make a mention of that? It's like we've been gone for 100 years or something like that. What was I gonna say? Yeah, actually in the scene where they start landing, it's like we can see houses and they land. I was like, show a wide shot so we can see if Heidi was right about like it's like the city is fine, but it's scorch marks everywhere else. Like I was hoping that would happen.
And that's what I thought had happened. But what was I gonna say? I mean, I did like the episode. I don't want to sound like I didn't like the episode, but like kind of like Mandalorian season 2, like episode 2 of Mandalorian season 2 was probably my least favorite episode, but I still liked it. I did like the humor in it. I liked
the ending was great.
Yeah. But I like the stuff where the kid said, "Oh, that must be King No Head or something." She was really No Head. I thought that was funny, and also where they think 33, can you babysit him? He's like, "Okay, come here, you baby."
Come on, baby. So true. And this was a very heavy Neil episode as well, which was like great. I think that last scene is really great, and then anything Neil does in this episode, I'm like, yes.
This episode was this episode. So last week was the KB episode. Like KB came into her own. This week was Neil coming into his own. So I suspect next week we'll get like Fern probably will be like, because this week she was like dejected by the end of it. So I'm guessing next week she'll have her moment, and then I think Wim is where we're going to end off with Wim, because we're halfway there, guys. We're halfway through this series, and it's I know, but But this was the first one where I was like, man, I really wish this was just a movie now. This was the first one that felt like a binge watching show. The first 2 episodes were combined. The last week was like, okay, TV. But this one, but I love that end, like the way with Smee at the end and Neil fainting. Like Neil fainting, guys, was perfect. It was pitch perfect.
Yeah. Did they do a cool camera effect on SM33 when he's like, I will pull you apart. It felt like, I don't know if I was just like
He was
half
glowing.
asleep. Yeah. He was like that was cool.
That was I didn't that was the part I was like, oh, I don't like this. I didn't like the way that looked at all. That and the shot of the kids was like, oh, it just, I don't know. It was not my style. I'll tell you that. It reminded me of something else I won't say. So I was like, but that's cool. Whatever.
Yeah. I like what they're setting up here because it's just like something is very afoot. I'm also finding no use of Jod right now. Jod, Jedi, Jude Law. It's just sort of like, yes, he sort of helps them midway, but he's just kind of there. You know what I mean? Like these kids could kind of carry this whole show by themselves right now. I'm not seeing exactly what his point is. So like maybe, I mean, you pay for Jude Law. I hope the character is worthwhile, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, next week I'm saying Fern, then it's going to be Jude Law. Then we end on a whim. How about that? That's where we're going to. I think Jude Law. I think Jod's going to have a point in the series. I'm with you though. Like at one point I was like, is he not even in this episode? Like, did they pay him per episode? And they were like, you're on the ship this one, so we don't have to give you your full paycheck. Like, I wasn't sure what the point was. I thought he was great last week. This week,
yeah.
There's got to be something more. Like, obviously, he wants that treasure on Adden, but can that be it? Like, can that be the only thing he's after right now? Is that I don't know. I think I don't know if he was underused, like you said. Like the kids are carrying it, and it is about the kids.
Yeah,
like he is. Like if he wasn't Jude Law and they just hired Bob Mark to play him, would we care? Like, would we even mention that right now? Do you know? Like, but because it's Jude Law, we're like, where's Jude Law in this episode?
Like, it could just be Hondo, and it would be the same thing.
I've done nothing against Jude Law, and I'm sure his character is going to be necessary more later on. But you could basically have the show with Smee and the kids.
Yeah. It would have been great.
As long as Fern doesn't tell him or him to remember everything.
But Jude Law did Jod. Let's call him by his name, Jod Nanawood.
No.
Jod Nanawood. He did save them from Smee at the very end. He saved Neil's life at the end. So he is, I mean, I think you owe him effing respect, Brock. He saved Neil. So I think that could play into like going forward. He's like, I saved your life. Like he could use that because they're kids. They're dumb. He could use that against them and be like, I saved your lives. Remember that. I also don't know if I buy that he just was it like, because at first he's like, just shoot me. I'm like, oh, that's funny. And then I was like, oh, did he use like his Jedi ways to like get out of that situation? And instead he's like, I gave him some money. I'm like, that seems like a cop out on a million different levels. Like what? Like, is that really what happened? Because it honestly, like, it felt like a cheap, like, really? That's it?
Like, they're dangerously close to like having some plot holes here because it's like, how are we explaining? Does he use the Force? Was it a trick? What's going on with that? And then, we've had the trailer where we see Wim's dad, and he's like, I'll get them back. And then now it's like, if we had landed on Adden, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. But then when we didn't land on Adden, I'm like, okay, so how are we going to wrap up that dad story or make any use out of that dad story? Because he's like, I think I said that in the last episode he was in. It was like, oh, I feel like the dad's going to go look for them by escaping the planet or something along those lines. I don't think that's going to happen now.
No, I thought the parents were the weakest part of this series until the very last shot of Wim's dad last week when it's like,
Yes.
what does he know? Like,
Yeah.
what does he know?
Mhm.
And this week they didn't touch on it, and I wasn't too bothered by that. But yeah, they like that needs to come into play, obviously, because there's something more going on with like there than we're knowing, and maybe not everybody there knows, or maybe Wim's dad knows something. There's something going on there. So I because I was like, man, this is a weird way to start an episode. I don't care. I'm honestly, I'm just like, I do not care about the parents. I care about the kids. Like, if we're going 80s, give me the kids. Like, Stand By Me. Do they have parents? Like, I don't know. I don't care. But that last shot of him where you're like, oh, he knows something. Okay. That's what I'm like. All right. I'm okay with the parents involved if there's more to it. And we're learning more. Like, there is more to Adam than meets the eye. And I think it's more than just that treasure that Jadana Wood is after.
Maybe he's from there.
Oh, that'd be a nice like reveal.
I still think it's good. I think Kylie, I think you said, like, I think it's Wim's mom is a Jedi from Adam.
Yeah.
And she's out there somewhere. And I feel like that's where we're going. Because Wim's too obsessed with Jedi to not have the Force, Brock. And I know you're going to love that. What if Wim is related to Broom Boy?
It's like, I feel like you just have a whiteboard in front of you where you just put random names of like things that haven't, names of characters that we've never seen again.
Broom Boy, Last Jedi is 7 years old, man. It's 7 years old now. Rogue One is 8 years old. Can you believe that?
I mean, what's important to also note is that like SM-33 has been to this at Akron.
Yes.
Akron, Ohio. So it's just like, and he keeps like the captain, his original captain, got this and told him to kill anyone that knows about it. It's like, who's that going to be? Like, now it's like, I'd rather like totally ditch every other little storyline we've had and just focus on this for the next, because this is 4 more episodes. I'd rather, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. So you said, because you said it's dangerous with the plot holes. I'm not concerned because I feel like I feel like this show has done the one thing that all of us have been crying about, and that's they've planned it all out. Like, I really think that everything they're doing, there's a purpose for it. Like, I think this episode will be like, oh, that's why this episode happened. Like, I feel like we're gonna get there at some point because they've already like started answering little things, and I feel like Akron, Ohio. I feel like we're gonna understand why they were there. Like, I think these little things are all gonna come. We're gonna get the answers to everything that is being that's been posed to us. I feel like it's coming because we've gotten stuff already. I could be wrong, obviously, but I just so that's why, like, even though I'm like the stuff in this episode, I'm like, I'm treating it like Space Whales and Rebels, where I'm like, let's see what the purpose of this was. Because them just joining, like, randomly being like kidnapped and like, you guys are going to be our military now. All right, never mind. Like, I'm like, there has to be something more to that. I feel like there's more that's going to, I don't know what it is, but the more is going to evolve from there. So again, if it was a binge watching show, we'd have the answers right now, but we don't. So we got to wait. So I'm going to reserve judgment on all that until we get it.
Well, I noticed this week's episode had 2 different directors, and I think you could tell because there were definitely 2 different episodes.
Yeah, that actually
Daniels.
But they work together.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
That kind of explains the different style, because like I would argue that movie's pretty out there. So like the different style in this in comparison to the others. Like, I didn't even think about who directed it.
You know, actually, SM-33, when he was growing, you said that bothered you. It reminded me of something you'd see like in a video game, like World of Warcraft.
It was the camera angles and the way it was shot. I never like anything that shot like that. I'm just always like, ugh, it just takes me out of it. Like, get out of here! I don't like it. I don't like those weird lenses on shot. I don't like. That's it's personal preference.
Were you happy to see a battle droid tank from the prequels
Yeah.
show up? Was that the only
what was
Easter
funny?
egg?
Yeah, when that happened, I was like, that was the first time I ever felt like the show connected oddly, like weirdly. I felt like the show connected, and Heidi said earlier to Andor. I was like, there was something. It was kind of like I'm like, I kind of could see this living in the Andor universe now. Like the Andor's obviously more adult, but it still felt like they could blend together if you wanted in some capacity. I was like, yeah. But no, I love seeing that that in there. I loved it. Of course I did. I love last week the B1 battle droid was like, did we win?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you didn't.
I mean, like I said, this is probably my least favorite, and I didn't hate it. It's probably my least favorite episode. I just don't want these tribes just left. Like, we don't know what happened to them. That's going to be, like, annoying.
That's why I feel like there has to be more than meets like Transformers that meets the eye on these things. Like, there's got to be more going on that we're not given that information yet. We're told, like, this is a world, these are the people in the world. Now you know they're here. We'll come back to that later. Like that's what I could be wrong, but that's how I feel about this stuff. Space whales. I'm just gonna keep going back to space whales in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why the captain wanted anyone dead who found out about it. He told the robot to forget about it, and if anyone asked him, to literally tear him limb from limb. But like, how long was ship in the ground? That was there a while, and like they didn't have lightsabers; they had metal swords.
Yeah,
and it just crashed there. Like, what happened to it when it got there? Also, there's a lot of questions about that.
Well, I think they all killed each other, but that's why it looked like they kill each other and fight, and they just. But I don't know. But like, how long is that ship in there? It's like it might have been there before lightsabers.
I have a premonition that because SM-33 looks like a pirate, that they are trying to trick us into thinking that this captain we're curious about is a pirate. I think it's just sort of like perhaps this actual person, like my guess is the ship is landed on At-Aten and then buried, right? You know what I mean? But definitely it looks like there was a battle, like some kind of sword fight in the thing.
What if that's a ruse? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, or like they're just two other people, right? I think we're definitely going to see, hopefully. I mean, again, like, can you imagine we get to episode 8 and we don't get a full explanation of who SM-33's original captain is? I'll be like, but
what if it's one of the kids' parents or something like that?
Yeah,
he may still be alive. We're just assuming he's dead.
Yeah. He's his dad. it's Wim's dad. He's like,
But no, it's true. It's like it could be anybody, and honestly, like all those dead bodies in there, that could be staged. That could all be staged.
Yeah,
I'm not totally against the people looking differently, because if this is like an episode of like Fantasy Island, like I think Neil will find a girl and At-Aten looks just like that other girl. So I'm not totally against the idea of clones or people looking the same on different planets.
That I think that would be really, really interesting, because I think we're going to another planet next, like another At planet, because they don't have the coordinates for At-Aten yet.
So I keep going until they find. The one problem is there's a picture of Jude Law and Neil outside of like that cave with like the Sith writing on the wall.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, why did they release a picture like at least 5 episodes into the series? Like, because when they went there, I'm like, as soon as I'm like, well, that's not on this one, so like, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, why don't release that? I don't want it. Like, release the first episode on the first episode week, and like, don't give me episode 8 away. You know, I don't think it's episode 8. I think it's probably 5, but it's probably Bryce Dallas Howard's episode. I don't know what episode that is.
I mean, Wikipedia, and don't go there if you don't want to say this, but Wikipedia has a character in a name is a massive spoiler. So.
This is like Lego.
Was that IMDb or was that IMDb?
That was Wikipedia.
Oh, I think I saw IMDb had that too. We were like, why does that person have that name? Skywalker, Brock.
Does
Swim
Neil have a species
Skywalker.
yet?
It's Neil Skywalker. Neil Organa.
I'm in.
Neil Organa is the name you're looking for.
Oh
How
my
good
God.
is Neil though? Like Neil, everyone wanted to love Neil, and it's like, yeah, you did it. Congratulations.
His little
We all love him.
discussion, like his little chat in like I think it's when they're at the marketplace or they're on the top of the school or whatever, and he's just like, oh, he's explaining. It's like, when she's like, do you fight on your planet? It's like, no, we play whatever the ball game is.
Ball.
Yeah, and he's just like, and we do this. Or like it's not as impressive. It's like you can't see his mouth and you just see these eyes, but it's like the kid actor in that mask is like doing the Lord's work. Where I'm like, yeah, perfect.
I like how the breakout characters in Star Wars are always not real people.
Yeah,
Yep.
Like Empire Strikes Back, it was Yoda, and of course Grogu, and now Neil.
yeah. The characters that have to like either overact or rely on something else besides just like having a real face.
No, Neil's the fat kid everybody likes in adventure movies.
Absolutely, the gold, with the heart of gold.
Not a warrior though. But you notice though, when he was out there, he's like walking and he's like complaining, and then right when he heard the sound, he went right into battle mode. I'm like, Neil will fight to the death for you. Whim, you respect Neil.
Well, I mean, he's the one who lured us SM-33 away from everyone else, and
Yep.
It's true.
It's,
Neil's this was his episode.
Yeah.
I will say I was annoyed with this episode to the fact that like I've never really wanted to write anything Star Wars, but I came up with like a really decent like half-baked idea for like some type of like radio play that could be Star Wars themed. And in the heart of it was like a droid that's malfunctioning that can actually reveal a whole bunch of information, which is basically SM-33. And I'm like, should have wrote it first. Mine was an astromech droid, but like that's the beauty of droids. It's like you don't know how old they are because they can basically function forever, and their memories can be erased or like altered. So it's just like they're perfect for like those things.
I mean, maybe you could argue it's the show Droid, but I kind of want to see C-3PO's adventures before Anakin Skywalker found them.
Absolutely. It's totally true. Like, I mean, how many times, James, have you said it's like, oh, it would be amazing to end one of the movies with R2 shooting up the crawl into space?
They totally missed opportunity on Rise of Skywalker, ending it with R2 being shut down at the because it always irises out, and that's how he would shut down. Would be that total missed opportunity, but
yeah,
you know, there wasn't a lot of thinking going on with how to end that one.
No, this, like I said, this did what I did not like that the prequels did, and it's like telling me something that happened and not show me. Like things when you're writing, you got to worry about telling me and not showing me, but a movie, there's just no excuse for that. I mean, you just said, oh, I just gave him money. It's like, what happened? How did this meeting go? And it's just, oh, I just gave him money. Like,
yeah. I think they do a good job with these kids where it's like they make you love them like quickly. Like Fern's like moment of like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then because she like is vulnerable for a second, then she like, oh wait, this is how I can outthink. This is how I can actually be the captain. And then, you know, Neil just being Neil and like wearing his heart on his sleeve and doing what it's just like those little things. It'll be so next episode when these kids are tighter because he saved them. It's like we won't question it because we'll be like, yeah, this makes sense. I do like that about this show, and I think it's gonna be the big takeaway from the series as a whole. I don't know if you guys agree.
I mean, I can tell Wim and Fern are going close together. I don't know if they're going to develop a crush on one another. Like I said, I know Neil liked that one girl, but now I think he likes this other girl more. And I have a feeling that her counterpart is going to be on At but
Mm.
I don't know. I'm kind of
It's
like I
gonna
said, I'm
end
going
with
with
the
the
race.
theory there.
It's gonna end with that motorcycle race. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
That's how
why
it's
not?
ending.
Perfect.
It's Hollywood and a freeze frame. Neil, freeze frame. It's like it was probably the weakest episode, but it's still like, all right, this is a fun show, building up the adventure, letting it like enjoying the ride, and yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. Like, what do we got? But I'm hoping we get more Judd Nana Wood next week. Judd Nana Wood. Not like I'm just not sure. Like you said, like this episode is like, why is he even here wearing Lando's shirt? Like, why is he here?
Because everybody wears a
I
bear
get
Star Wars.
that's true. They don't have a budget for more wardrobe. You guys want to go to the odds?
Let's do it.
Of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Never.
No. Never tell me the odds. Brought to all of us by patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast.com/Rebel Scum Podcast. And why don't you head on down there so we can continue to wear red shirts all at the same time? This is not a Star Trek podcast, but go to patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast and support us any way you can. We love talking about Star Wars. We think we could talk about Star Wars every single day, but you know, that's not always possible. And we love everyone that supports us, just like Heidi Feder, executive producer,
EP.
Eric Brophy, Dennis Allen, Soonerthron, Randy Kenobi, Mary Kristen Aton, Dale Erdman, Phil Staniforth, Rez, Scott D,
Josh Price, Matt W, Frank Perkins, Neil Lowry, Cosmic Girl 02, Gleek Play 1, Denim Nerds, Disney, Desi, Charlotte, Ron Prasak, and Jeff Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of your support. It means a lot to us. Dale Erdman in the chat, at Adam, at I2, at Akron, at Arissa, at Erevin, at Akota. That's 6 of 9. I think you're missing at ITST and at Wicket.
Because then tight.
Where's my at? My guess is these names are like the names of the children of people on production. I only say that because Arissa looks like Marissa or something like that. I have a premonition they're gonna be like, oh, we made up these names because these are our kids.
They're all double A names though, eh? At
Marvin.
Yep. Or could they just be dropping A's on it? Who knows?
Yeah, Marvin.
Yeah.
Never tell the odds. These names are kids. All right, Never Tell Me the Odds brought to you by Patreon. Thank you all so much for your support. Our first odds, Never Tell Me the Odds. This one is from executive producer Heidi. The kids, Never Tell Me the Odds, the kids will leave at Aden after they return to the planet. So they're going to return to at Aden sooner than later, but they're going to have to leave again by the end of the series. We need Jeopardy style music for this. That's my copyright free version.
No. Never mind.
we could let's see if they have any. But I don't know.
It sounds like the beginning of a side-scrolling video game. I think if they leave Aden at the end of the last episode or penultimate episode, I think it's like because they want to set up for a second series, which I don't exactly am hyped for, because we all know just because you want a second season doesn't mean you get it. But I think there's some validity to what could be. So I'm gonna go 75%.
I'm gonna say this. I think it's gonna end with that biker race, and it'll be Fern and Neil at the bike race. But are you familiar with the movie American Graffiti? American Graffiti?
Yes.
Are you familiar with American Graffiti? You know how in that movie, how Richie Cunningham and Richard Dreyfuss are like, Richard Dreyfuss is like, I want to leave. And Richie Cunningham is like, no, or like, I got to leave. They all want to like leave anyway. At the end, Richard Dreyfuss leaves to Canada. And Richie Cunningham's like, I got to stay behind with Shirley.
Mary Shirley.
Yeah, like, so it's like, I'm like, okay, so I think Neil is leaving at Adam at the end of the series. And Fern and Wim are staying around because Wim's the one who's like wants the adventure, but he's like, my adventure is Fern. They're kids. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like she's a racer. And then KB maybe goes with Neil, maybe 6 round. I'm not really sure about KB. But that, so I'm gonna say technically full Brock because half are leaving, half are going, but I'm gonna go 61% on Neil because Neil's the one that like doesn't want to leave. I'm like, Neil's gone. Neil's gonna say a heartfelt goodbye to his parents and take off. By the way, John Watts and Ford, I believe they both said that if they do a second season, there will be a time jump. There'll be a time jump. Heidi, you're odd.
I'm gonna go 75% because I think what's gonna happen is when they get there, they're going to end up being fugitives for leaving the planet, and
yeah.
I think they're gonna be one arrested, and at least Fern's mom and Wim's dad are gonna help them escape. So I think they're gonna have no choice. But if we're going with American Graffiti, I hope there's a scene where the popos after them and they fly the ships, I guess, to the post and it rips them in half.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Harrison Ford plays an X-Wing pilot. Like more American Graffiti.
Jack.
And our next odd, never tell me the odds, Neil will find true love by the end of the season. Neil will find true love by the end of the season.
I think he already has. I'm going to go 100% because I think he already has.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be a reason for introducing these people. So it's like, I'm going to go 60% on it. I think that
I'll go
warrior girl's coming back.
Unless she's like the one from Mandalorian season 1 who he goes to remember the planet that he meets Cara Dune on, and we're like, oh, she's coming back, and it's been 3 years and like 3 seasons. I'm gonna go full Brock on this one. I'm gonna go full Brock. I agree with everything you guys said, but that Mando episode tells me not to believe what you say, so I'm gonna go full Brock on it. And our final odd, never tell me the odds, that at Atten is a simulation. At Atten is a simulation.
What do you mean by simulation? It's all in their head. It's like it's a fake city on this dead planet, or they're in like a VR thing.
When they went up the elevator thing, I was waiting for Colonel Sanders from the Matrix to show up and be like, oh, look at what I do. So I don't know, maybe like the planet, like you say, half the planet is in ruins, but what if it's all is, and they just are living in a simulation? They're on a holodeck on the Enterprise.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, is Jod not out of wood in the simulation too, or?
Yeah.
Well, no, they're not on at Aden anymore.
Well, how'd they get? I'm sorry, I don't even.
No, at Aden is the simulation. At Aden is.
Well, okay, I thought you meant they had like a VR thing and were plugged into.
No. Like, well, I mean, it's the future. Anything is possible.
No, it's in a galaxy a long time ago and a far, far away.
But that long time ago is our future, so we're.
Which is how we end up with Major Tom in the 1980s.
Yeah. I did not like the music.
Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica reboot had a Bob Dylan song in it, and that was in the a long time ago in Galaxy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Along the Watchtower.
Something is not right. Like there's definitely something up with these planets. So I don't know if it's a simulation, but there's something fantasy and reality are two different things right now. So I'm gonna go 45%.
I'm gonna go 43.4449%, rounding up to 43.4. Because something's off there. I don't think it's a full simulation, but there's something not quite right with Adam. I'm really looking forward to seeing what that is.
I mean, I'm gonna go 75% because that's the theory I had before, that most of the planet's dead except this one city, kind of like what's that Jim Carrey movie? The one where he's in a virtual reality movie show.
Truman Show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it turns out they're actually on Ed TV. For all you film lovers. That was the Ron Howard version of Truman Show.
Yeah.
Ed TV starring Woody Harrelson came out the same year because Hollywood needs Armageddon and Deep Impact within 2 months of each other. All right, those are our odds. Let us know what your odds are in the comments down below. Brock, do you have any news?
No.
Let me turn off this music. Or should we go to top 5 music? Top 5 music. Ready? Feeding the Ducks, Brock. Feeding the Ducks. Okay.
Fantastic.
When I go to feed the ducks, that's the music I play every time. Top 5 Neil moments. I'm going to go last because I don't even know. Top 5 Neil moments. Who wants to go first on this one?
Well, I'm going to go 5 fainting.
Is it only Neil moments from this episode or as a whole?
Were there 5 Neil episodes in this moments in this episode? I mean, there probably were. I would go
maybe.
That's just the first one came up with. Everybody loves Neil.
I would say
Neil.
I would say the full season. I'm gonna write these down so I don't forget them.
James, remember you sent me that picture of Neil beside the Christmas tree, and I'm like, the reason for this season. My number 5 is gonna be. Maybe this is a cop out, but we do see them. He mentions his younger brother in this episode, and we see the younger brother in the first. So I'm like, there's so many of them, and apparently the little brother can beat Neil up. I'm like, fantastic.
That sounds very Neil.
Mm-hmm.
My number 5, Neil on the bus when he's like, like that on the bus. Because if this was 1987, everybody would have one of those stuck to their car right now, like Garfield, like suctioned on there. So that's my number 5.
My number 4 is going to be Neil and Wim pretending to be Jedi at the bus stop. It's like that's their friendship right there.
This is gonna come out as weird. I'm gonna say Neil in the bathtub.
Forgot about that. He's just
classic Neil.
Does he get shocked when Wim's up there? I can't remember. He just sort of he just accepts that his friend's on the roof.
Yeah, it's not the first time. I don't think. My number 4 is Neil when they find the ship and they're digging and they put their ear down to it and Neil puts his down. I'm like, Neil. That's my number 4.
My number 3 is gonna be Neil giving his food rations to the poor kids on the roof.
Aww.
I don't know why they can't eat food. They can't have more food. I don't know what's going on in that warrior society. But yeah.
I'm going to go with Neil being sickened by his meal at that spaceport.
Yeah, that's a good one.
These are really good. My number 3 is just Neil's family. I'm copying out and putting all of Neil's family as number 3.
They all hug. And Wim's just like, why can't my family hug?
Two, Brock.
Number 2, I'm gonna go Neil just falling down the sand dune in the 3rd episode, and nobody stops.
Nice.
He just falls down the sand dune, and we just keep going with the action.
It's fair. It's a good moment. Mm-hmm. Heidi.
I'm gonna go the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a good one.
Nice.
And we're on number 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's the lightsaber also, but when he pretends to die specifically the moment he does his dramatic death. And number 1, I'll just go first on number 1 because it's been said, and it's the greatest moment so far. It's when he faints at the end of this episode. Neil fainting, because the audio of, I don't know who it was, Wim, I think, is like, he fainted, which is like so perfect with his little shut up. And then it just ended. I was like, I kind of like the way they ended the episode.
I'll tag on to that idea because that's my number 1 as well. But he jumps, he distracts SM-33 heroically, and then subsequently faints.
Yeah. And Heidi, you're number 1. By the way, thank you for bringing Kim on the show today.
Oh, yeah. He's need some wings. I'm going with Neil holding the rope and when trying to
yeah,
because everybody knew where that was going.
Yeah, Heidi was ready for this list. That's a good one. A lot of good Neil moments. I said this earlier. I was kind of worried we were all getting excited for Neil, and it'd be like it'd be all for nothing. But he's paying off. Paying off. Yeah, he's delivering. Yeah.
See, I think I'm
worried about kind of like.
James.
I forgot Jaleel White's in the show.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He said like one line, I believe, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
He said a line last
He's
week.
gonna be the Finn of the show.
Yeah. He's gonna be Constable Zuvio of thing. Oh, never tell me. Yeah, it's Constable Zuvio's coming back.
It's like we haven't really commented on the fact that Neil has like comb over hair. Like he's running and his hair is still perfectly combed. It's just like his face is an elephant, but he has this nice like parted hair. Like I'm like, I have to go to school tomorrow. Every once in a while I see it. I'm like, that's funny.
Did you hear when he was coughing? He was making elephant noises when he was coughing.
Yes. And they referred to it as his trunk like a bunch of times this episode. I'm like, Neil is, if anything, the Neil character is worth watching for.
Also, I noticed when John Nana Wood was looking for the credits or whatever, he found the piece of the holiday special.
Yeah, they're really good. I wonder next week with it releasing on Christmas Eve if they're just gonna play the holiday special in full through Skeleton Crew. Like halfway through the episode, you just see like a hollow version of it just plays the whole thing. You're like, what just happened? Heidi would be like, yes, all in.
I've trained my entire life for this.
It's so good. Those are our top 5. Let us know what yours are in the comments down below. Oh, look at that. Neil goes back to Akron to find Hena. Hena.
That's exactly what I thought too.
And I can't wait for next week's episode. Whenever I watch it, I'm not sure I'll watch it for like 3. I'll have to stay off. I guess it'll be really easy to stay off the internet those couple of days because it'll be Christmas time, and I won't be on Twitter.
I'm just worried the ratings aren't great, but maybe people are waiting till it drops.
That's I honestly think. Well, the Acolyte the response that got didn't help. But then you look at Boba Fett, Mando season 3, Andor to a degree, Obi-Wan. They were all like, "Why am I watching it weekly? I should just watch this all at once."
Mhm.
And so I think Netflix. And I've said this so many times, though, but Netflix has ingrained that in our minds, like binge these damn shows.
Hey, Desi.
Oh,
Birthday.
Oh, my mouse was over. I didn't see it. Can't say I remember. No, at Adam.
she's 30 minutes in the past. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's what I think of that.
But I just think that, do you think Book of Boba Fett would have been a better reception if they had just called it Mandalorian season 3 and started with episode 5 and then 6 and then go into episode 1, 2, and 3 and just label those episodes the Book of Boba Fett and then end on episode 7? Or do you think people would have been mad, like, why are we off of?
I think they need to stop naming shows after characters and just
Yeah.
name them after skeletons. No, you're right. Like if Boba Fett was a tag to Mandalorian. It was like buying a DLC for a video game. It wasn't a video game. It was an expansion, but it was still part of it. But it wasn't. It was its own show, and I think people were expecting John Wick Boba Fett, and instead they got wise old man Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot going on there. But
Well,
yeah,
like
no,
my-
they need to market these things better.
Like my sister,
Damn it, Desi.
yes, we did.
we have a text chain, a group
Yeah.
text. What are they called? Text chain. What is it? 1987.
No,
We're pen pals.
oh, she needs to go back and watch the entrance, and she'll really think we play on this. But, no, because like I said, my sister, she likes to watch this, but she wasn't particularly a Boba Fett fan. I knew she would like the Din Djarin and Grogu part, so we just watched the last 3 episodes. And if you love the Mandalorian and you didn't care anything about the Book of Boba Fett, you could have just watched the last 3 episodes, and that would have been fine.
Yeah, that's true.
I actually told my parents just to watch the last few episodes, and they watched the whole thing, and they're like, "It was a really good show." They love Book of Boba Fett. They're like, "But why did Mandalorian show up?" I'm like, "This is the opposite of what I thought was going to happen here." So I think you're dead on. Like they should have called it something different, and I don't know. I don't know why they're so. It's Star Wars. I don't know why they're so focused on calling it after one character. Brock, you've said it before too. It's like it's beyond one person.
Yeah.
Like if Ahsoka is not called Ahsoka and it's called Rebels 2 or who knows what. Like it's different. It's a completely different vibe. But instead they're like, no, it's called this. You're like,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree. I think it would have been interesting if it would have been like Mandalorian season 3, and then it just happened to be mostly about Boba Fett, or like a colon the Book of Boba Fett. I don't know.
I think what they should have called it.
What they did though was cool. It's just like, well, we can continue the story and give you something new instead of like, yeah.
That's what's lost though. Is like they did something cool, but nobody was on board because people were for whatever. People were confused. And the one I never understood was people like, I love the Mandalorian, but I refuse to watch the Book of Boba Fett. But it's the same thing. Like it's all part of the same story. Like that's where they got to figure out how to get. Like, I'm not interested in Boba Fett.
I pointed this out. It was never called the Din Djarin show. It wasn't called the Grogu show. It was just called the Mandalorian. Yeah. It could be any Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But he's only called the Mandalorian in season 1, so it kind of is the Din Djarin show.
Yeah.
When you think about it, because even the late great Grief Karg goes, "Hey Mando." That's my impression of him. Hey Mando.
Yeah, it is honestly strange that they decided to have these episodes drop on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Maybe I guess the thought process is like, well, you're gonna be home. I mean, it's not convenient for us trying to do a podcast the day of, but like they had it on Monday, then they went to Tuesday. It's like if they did Mondays all the way through, it's just like it just seems odd. But again, I don't think they have 100%.
I honestly think they're just like, get this show out of our system, get it out of here. Like it almost feels like they're just trying to get out. But like, why didn't they move it to Thursdays? Because then you would have Thanksgiving in the States for your first episode. And then you would get after all the other stuff where people are basically doing nothing those days anyway.
Yeah.
I don't, their timing makes no sense. And then it's like 9 p.m. Eastern, just release like, I don't know. I think, yeah, the next two should be on the Monday for sure. But I think they do think people just sit home and watch it. And they might be right. Yeah. They might be. But I just feel like it's like 9 p.m. Christmas Eve, maybe you get people. But New Year's Eve, 9 p.m., I feel like that's, if you were earlier in the day, you might get people. But I don't know about 9 p.m. I just feel like that's a wash.
Might be better than 3.
And they 3 for sure. Midnight on New Year's morning. That's what. Happy New Year. Put on Disney Plus. Put it on. That's what it's got to be. All right. Well, we'll figure out when we're going to do this podcast next week. I'm thinking we do noon Christmas Day.
Perfect. That's totally fine.
Let's just do it. Our wives would be so happy about that. Noon Christmas Day. And yeah, that's when Selena has her nap. So it's perfect. Anything else you guys want to say? Boy.
What's on the tote board?
And KK has been
retired.
Fired. Retired. Yeah, she can't get fired because she retired. She tricked them. She tricked them. She was like, I sense a firing coming. She does. Who's taking over?
Twin sister.
Kathleen Kennedy. That's her name. Kathleen Kennedy. All right. Anything else you guys want to say?
Nope. I look forward to the next episode.
Heidi?
Watch Scum podcast and Diddle Charcuterie.
Yeah.
Rebel Scum. Thanks everybody for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and until next time, Brock, you. Hold on a second. No, I can do it. You were always scum.
Rebel Scum.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.